Hey everyone. Today we're going to be talking about this article that I found called AI Data Center Opponents Get Water Use Arguments All Wrong. So it used to say like AI data centers, man, it was like the concerns or something. It was something about concerns and whatever. And I found it on my phone first and I was reading, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous. It's a lot of AI propaganda. That's what it is. Okay, so it's written by Dace Potaz, um, by USA Today. It's an opinion piece. Okay, so it's just this dude's opinion, and that's fine. We can share our opinions, and that's what I'm going to do because I'm going to share my opinion about why his opinion's wrong. And here we go. Here's a little bit about the columnist. Dace Potaz is a columnist with USA Today Opinion. He is also a law student who loves America and free markets. That's it. Wow. Deep. A lot going on there. Not to rip you apart, Days. It's hilarious. It's like, I love America and free markets. Like, wow, that's as red blooded as you can get. So let's go back to the article. All right, Dace. Try not to be too harsh on you. But I disagree with you. Oh my gosh. Every time I click something on there, I just advertisements everywhere. That's the world we live in. Is ads everywhere. Oh my goodness. Again. Okay. So it talks about data centers are gigantic buildings that house the computing power behind the artificial intelligence booms are widely unpopular. This is very true. 7 in 10 Americans oppose it. Okay, so he also cites a bunch of stuff, all these blue highlighted things. You can click them and it'll bring you to another article. Sometimes they go to other opinion articles. I didn't click on all of them. I clicked on the ones that I was questioning what he was saying. And that just seemed a little too convenient. And here's one that he writes out. Quincy, Washington is now home to more than 24 data centers, which pay more than half the city's property taxes. That windfall has brought Quincy a new high school, sports complex, hospital, library, police station, fire department, and even a water park. I'm gonna have to look into this because that would be crazy if all that stuff wasn't there before, but it was a city with a population of 8,500. Population of 8,500 in a city is not a lot. It's very small. This is a very small town. But get this. The people got all that plus 900 new jobs. 900 new permanent jobs? Probably not. Most likely not. These buildings are designed to run with as little employment and labor as possible. So I would doubt 900 new jobs, but the poverty rate, okay, why did this town have a poverty rate of 30% in 2012 and now it's got 6.2% 12 years later? um I'll have to look up what its poverty rate is right now. Let me make a little note on that so I can look it up, and I'll punch it in here. Make a little note. Boom. Find poverty rate of Quincy, Washington 2026. There we go. Save. A little note for post editing. So if you took the numbers here, where's my calculator? Well, I have one on my phone, I guess. If you took the population of 8,500 and they had a poverty rate of 30, so we take 8,500 times 0.30, you can leave zero out, whatever. So 2,550 of them were in poverty. That's a lot of people in poverty. And then 12 years later, only 6% of them are in poverty. So 8,500 times 0.062, 6.2%. Make sure I do this right. 0.62. Okay. That says 527 of them are living in poverty. Now, that's not homeless, it's poverty, right? But point being is that the poverty rate dropped by, oh, I should have wrote this down. Where's my paper? Okay, so I did the math real quick here. Oh, stupid screen changed. Okay, so I did the math here real fast. Population of 8,500. Okay, and the poverty rate is 30% in 2012, and now it's 6.2% in 2024. 30% of 8,500 is 2,550, and then 6% of that number is 527. You take the difference of those numbers, it's 2,023 people are out of poverty now. They only allocated 900 new jobs for these data center build-outs. Now, so even if we gave them 100% benefit of the doubt, say every single job that it's because of the data centers, you got all 900 jobs, and they're permanent, not temporary jobs, they're permanent jobs. It doesn't account, we're still missing, if we did that minus 900, we're still missing 1,123 jobs. For who? Where those other jobs from? Data centers still somehow? So he's using stats about falling poverty in a town to try and say, hey, this is why they're doing so well, is because of the data centers. Even though the data centers, if we're 100% just, hey, take them at his word, you got 900 new jobs from data centers, and they're permanent and they're high paying jobs that keep you out of the poverty rate. We still are missing 1,123 jobs that are not accounted for. So tell me where that is. What's your name? Dace. So anyways, moving on. Quincy is the high end of outcomes, and it has got ahead of the curve, but data centers bring jobs and tax revenue to cities willing to host them. Yes, they do. That's true. Not many jobs, and the taxes are not free. One, a lot of the data centers get tax cuts and tax incentives. And then two, it costs you your resources, and that's just the truth of it. An increase in tax revenue let Richland Parish, Louisiana, pay its teachers $50,000 bonuses. Okay, uses more money to cut property taxes. Yeah, it's just saying, like, pretty much, hey, look at all these great case values of people getting data centers built. Data centers are projected to generate $27 billion in tax revenue nationwide over the next decade, and more local governments should be looking at how to claim their share. So what is that? What was that one? Yeah, here is that tab with the data centers will generate nearly 27 billion estimated tax revenue nationwide over the next decade, per the report. I read through this and I couldn't find out. I think it's just this one. Like, this is the article, America's Data Center Growth Hotspots Mapped, and there's this. It didn't cite a report. It just said, like, the report, American Eagle Project. So I'm guessing that's what they're talking about. But so this report, that this whole article kind of, not the whole article, this half of the article cites, has to do with right here. Now, I like that Axios did this, a pro-tech advocacy group. So I wonder how unbiased their report will be, So again, take it with a grain of salt. It is an opinion piece, but that, I don't know, that to me is just disingenuous, Dace. Okay. They also need engineers and electricians to maintain them and construction crews to build them. Engineers are to build them. Unless you're talking about stationary engineers, yes, but those are not degree-holding engineers. There's a big old gripe between a stationary engineer and an engineer who went to college. So this is, I think, tricky language. Electricians. Yeah, I mean, you have them on call. When I went to data centers, the ones that I went to, the ones for Target, there was stationary engineers on hand. It was like two dudes, because that's all you need. You have a ton of monitoring stuff. And then they also, station engineers do a lot of maintenance. So they double as maintenance, and they call out stuff that they can't do. Either whether it's they don't have the license to do it, or they don't have the skill set, or both. And so that's where electricians might come in, where you're like, oh yeah, this fuse is blown, this circuit breaker is destroyed, or whatever. Call the electrician, we'll switch power to the other we'll switch over to the other source of power, and then the electrician will come and fix that in the meantime. And then construction crews. No doubt there's construction crews that are needed to build them, and then they move on. That is temporary. That is not a permanent job. You're not going to keep coming back and building on top of these data centers indefinitely. So these jobs that he highlights here, this one is ambiguous. I think he means stationary engineers, not actual engineers. You don't need literal engineers just standing around in the building to maintain it. Electricians do maintain things when they break, but they're there for the build out. And once the building's built, you don't just have an electrician just standing there like waiting for the power to go out. They don't do that. So this is a lie. And then construction crews to build them. Yes, that's 100% true. Totally agree with that. Salaries for construction workers on these projects have ballooned into six figures amid the gold rush. Let me check this one out. If I can get into it. It is the Wall Street Journal. I do not like that you use paywall you cite articles with paywall. Dace, come on. How am I supposed to double check your stuff? He makes more than 100 increase. We'll just read this top one. Since April, Chambliss has worked the night shift, overseeing a team of 200 welders, plumbers, and electricians at a local data center construction site. He makes more than $100,000 a year. Yeah, he's the lead like site supervisor. He's the foreman. Of course, he's gonna make. He oversees a team of 200. So if this is your evidence, look at this contractor. Look at the boss of the whole company, how much he makes. All right, this sounds like a foreman position. Cruising around in a buggy under floodlight. Yeah, this is what foremen do. Like, hey, you doing what you're doing? Not all foremen are bad. I've had a lot of good foremen, but yeah, it just okay, man. I'm just gonna disregard that because you're just it's a gold rush and they're getting six figures. You cite one dude behind a paywalled article who's clearly not your worker bee dude. He's up there in the ranks. So cool. AI data center. So he just moves on because he's proved his point. AI data center backlash misunderstands water and electricity concerns. I really don't think they do. I think they're upset that people are actually starting to understand this. Oh, and look at this. Sorry, data center haters. You're on the wrong side of history. There's a ton of pro data center people out there because they have money it's important to them for their money and whatever. Or maybe it's just their beliefs and they got ideologies about it. Companies flocked to Quincy for cheap land, cheap power, and easy permitting. Yeah. They're like, hey, these guys don't know what they got. They don't know what they're doing. We can easily take a lot of land, power, and permitting, and water. And permitting is easy, and just go in and do what we want. That's like promotes it as like a good thing. Like, yeah. Yet more and more local governments are moving the other way. More than 500 localities have restricted the construction of new data centers. Good for them. New York became the first state to pass a moratorium on the projects. And 14 more states have considered similar measures. Good, I hope they do. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York have introduced a nationwide version. Oh, we'll see. Anything nationwide usually gets totally destroyed, but we'll see, maybe. Misguided as they are. Oh, nice. Politicians on both sides of the aisle are just responding to their constituents. Yeah, the people that put them into office, that's who they should be responding to. The people of America, that is what that was what his constituents is. If you're an elected official, you have people that got you into office. Those are your voter base. But your constituents is everyone in the mapped out area of where your voters vote from. Those are your constituents. You're beholden to them. It's a give and take, and you got to work with things right, and you got to be like, hey, we didn't know this. Bring back information, hold town hall meetings, and update the population as best you can. If people don't want to listen, then they don't want to listen. But that's as misguided as they are. They're both on both sides of the aisle. They're just responding to the dumb little politicians and the dumb little Americans. They just don't understand why AI is so great. That's what this is. This is yeah, misguided little children. The Gallup poll found that half of opponents are against data centers over their effect on the local environment, meaning water usage or energy consumption. I would also say sound. You go to these data centers. The sound it's there. It's loud. It's constant. It is the sound is a big thing too. I would have to say. Many of those concerns are misplaced or overstated. Nice, okay. Water is the most misunderstood one. I don't think it is. I think people are starting to wake up to it. Data centers do use it to cool their servers and quite a bit of it, but not all cooling is equal. Evaporative cooling, the older method, consumes water by evaporating it. To pull heat out of the system, closed loop systems recirculate the same water over and over instead. That's impossible. You can't just do that alone. It wouldn't just be water. It would be like your car, your radiator. It wouldn't be water. It would be like antifreeze or something. You can recirculate that stuff. You still have to top it off. Evaporation is unavoidable. You can't just be like, oh, it's forever. And a lot of these methods, the evaporative cooling method, they do it because it's cheap. It's the cheapest method they can do it. Right now, 56% of data centers still use evaporative cooling, but many of the industry's biggest players are moving to closed loop systems. I will believe it when I see it, because that is exactly the kind of lip service that a lot of these corporations go, oh, we won't do that. We won't do that. And they will do it. If no one made a fuss about the water in the first place, this article wouldn't even exist, most likely. They would just be doing evaporative cooling and no one would know and no one would care. And so now that the corporations are being like pushed back on, they're like, oh no, we're going to change. We're going to change the way we do things. That is because you gave them an incentive to do so. If you didn't incentivize them to change the way they're doing things, they're not going to change the way they're doing things. There's no incentive to. And it's actually a positive incentive for them to not change, because evaporative cooling is the cheapest for them. It uses the most water, but it's the cheapest way. They don't have to do anything with the water. They can just bleh, and like use it. They don't have to put it through special systems and buy particular parts and different. I don't know what kind of closed loop systems they have. I've seen a lot of articles, but I haven't seen it for myself, and I'd love to, because I don't believe the hype that they have around it, but I'd love to be proven wrong. Anyways, U.S. data centers account for just 0.14% of the country's annual water consumption, or 449 million gallons a day. For reference, California almond farms use 4.2 billion gallons a day. Golf courses use 1.4 billion. Okay, so I'll say this. Golf courses are a waste. I'm not a golfer. If you like golfing, sorry, but it is wasteful for water. There's no two ways around it. It's a wasteful thing. Almond farms in California. Almonds, they picked almonds, if you're not familiar with this, because those are water intensive crops. And I don't think almond farms should be in California. I think we should grow things in our country, in regions in our country where they grow more sustainably, like more just naturally. Like, hey, we got a lot of water here in Washington from the sky. It rains a lot. Maybe we plant some stuff that benefits from that, instead of going to like California, Southern California or something, or what is it, Southeast California, where it's not as much water, and we've got to pump everything and move everything around. It's like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be having crops in areas where the crops wouldn't naturally survive. Obviously there's agriculture and you can move things around and grow things, but to do that to that extent, it's wasteful. So I'm not trying to back the almond farmers. I've had a problem with growing crops in the wrong regions in America for a long time, and I've had a problem with golf courses. But the reason he picks these is because, one, of course, agriculture is a massive user of water, but also we get food from it typically. Yes, there is ethanol. That is waste. I'm not a big fan of ethanol. That is a dead cycle thing where it uses more calories than it gives out to help cut our gasoline. But golf courses, almond farms, ethanol, those are all great examples of industries that are not necessary to exist. What I'm trying to say is that he's using examples of water intensive industries. Also, these industries are mature, pretty mature. Data centers aren't mature yet. They're still being built out, and they're using a ton of water. They use way more water than they state, and they don't care. They want to keep using water, and they want to use electricity. And you use electricity for the water, or you use water for the electricity too, which he doesn't get into, but I will. So he's using industries that are mature. There's way more golf courses than there are data centers. And you'd be like, of course, because golf courses are like this, and data centers are like this, and there's much more to build out of them. But that doesn't change. They're not one for one. He's just using water intensive industries. And again, yes, I'll double check this. Yeah, look at this. Reason: free minds and free markets. Data centers use less water than almond farms and do more good. Well, we always want to do more good. Left and right, the arguments against data centers are incredibly weak and even suspicious. Okay, so he's citing a lot of places that are, he's citing a lot of articles that are also opinion articles or just anti or pro data center articles. Let's see here. So this was some sort of chart that got picked up 3 months ago. Honestly, I think we should be growing almonds in regions where they should grow more naturally with rainwater rather than groundwater. And America's huge. Like, we're a massive country. We have lots of different regions. We don't have to, oh, well, we can only grow almonds in California, or in this region in California. Why don't we move it? But, there's lots of reasons why we don't move it. Property taxes, tax incentives and cuts. I'm just going to skim through this because I don't want to read another article on top of an article. The United States economic future is inexorably tied to the tech center. Yes. Gains from AI are vitally the country's stability. Yes, which is sad. That's not a good thing. Gains from AI are vital to the country's stability. That's not good. You don't want that in a strong, stable country. You don't want to be like, hey, everything's great except for this pillar, this one little pillar. If it falls over, we're all screwed. You don't want that. You want a strong, robust, widespread economy. In that sense, it's not very surprising to discover that some of the arguments against AI are being made in coordination with the Chinese. Oh my God, the Chinese government. According to the Bitcoin Policy Institute, the Chinese Communist Party has indirectly encouraged a pause to slow it. Oh, this is part of that freaking what's it called? That stuff that guy on Sharks did. He's one of the sharks, and he accused like some people of being like Chinese operatives, and they were just like Americans. This Canadian dude, what is his name? I'm gonna find him because he annoys the crap out of me. Canadian billionaire on Shark Tank. We'll just do that. That'll find him. Kevin O'Leary. It's Kevin O'Leary. Yeah. Okay. So Kevin O'Leary, a Canadian, accused Americans of being Chinese communist, either parties, operatives, or like agents or something like that. Senator John Fetterman, I made a video about him. You can go check it out. He's an idiot, in my opinion. He's not, I don't know. I know he had a stroke and he has all this brain damage and whatever, but he doesn't care about Americans. He cares about staying in office. And a lot of what he talks about is exactly that. Yeah. He takes money from pretty much everyone. Yeah. Oh no, I clicked on it. Okay. The emerging AI must be built by America. We can put appropriate guardrails in place without handing. Yeah. So this is the scare tactic. Okay, we're gonna go back to the other article, but the scare tactic is like, if we don't do it, China will, and they might. But I mean, we don't have to just go, balls to the wall and just try and get all the data centers built as fast as possible, irregardless of environmental concerns and resource concerns and the concerns of our people. Um, we don't have to do it that way. As much as many people say you do, you don't. And the pointing the finger at the red Chinese Communist Party, be like, look, bad. That is a classic neocon talking point, or established, like, kind of, hey, big scare over here. We have to do it. I mean, we just gotta. I mean, you don't want China to take over, do you? Same thing with like Russia. Oh, we gotta stand with Ukraine. If we don't, they're just going to plow all the way through Europe. We're going to have World War II all over again. And it's just not, I don't find it to be true. And I also don't find it to be a strong argument. So, anyways, that's their water stuff. Electricity is a tougher case. Okay, so he says data centers already account for roughly 4% of American electricity grid, and that could hit up to 12%. Americans are understandably worried about electricity costs. Data centers can push up under some circumstances, mainly when they're built in areas without grid capacity to support them. But those increases don't have to be permanent. Data centers add demand in a stable, predictable way, giving power companies time to plan new production and infrastructure to meet it. Uh, the infrastructure is power plants, poles, lines, and freaking, what are they called? Sub centers, or sorry, substations. There's not a lot of, you need a lot of time to build those kind of things. Not the poles. I mean, the poles you don't just throw them up overnight. It takes a whole setup. The real gripe shouldn't be with data centers, but with the regulations that make it so hard to build energy infrastructure in the first place. Here's his free market coming in. Boo regulations. Get rid of regulations. No, we need regulations. They protect us, and they create good regulation. Can, if done correctly, can protect American citizens, protect America, our land, and create competitive environments for businesses to compete in. Like, it's good. Bad regulation can undo all of that. Yes. So this whole, like, oh, all regulations bad. There are bad regulations and there are good regulations. It's nuanced. It takes time to sort through it all. Let's go back up here though, because I want to talk about this. Electricity is a tougher case. He's just talking about increased usage of electricity. The build out, you have to build the infrastructure for it. And he's like, oh, well, he says it right here. Americans are worried. They can push up costs under some circumstances. You see how gentle the language is. Like, well, he can in some circumstances, he can push it up, instead of just being like, yeah, data centers can cost more for electricity sometimes. you know Instead, it's like, can push it up under some circumstances, mainly in areas where the grid capacity can't support them. No duh. Also, even these things consume so much power that where they are built, there it's not just like, oh, there's a data center over there, okay, crank up the power plant. That's not how it works. There's communication between the builders and the site project and the power plant existing, like the grid, the existing electric authority in that area. It's not just this, oh, we'll just turn up the knob or something. And of course, it's just downplaying reality, and it's kind of just lying. But those increases don't have to be permanent. Let's see how they don't have to be permanent. Here we go. Share this tab by newsletter Climate Forward. Oh, okay. We're not going to find out why. Why would you cite a bunch of articles that that are paywalled? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's super annoying. Don't cite articles that we can't read, like that we can't look at and scrutinize. Anyways, we'll take his word for him that they don't have to be permanent. I doubt that. When have you ever seen your electricity bill per kilowatt hour go the other way in cost? yes, there's fluctuation on demand through the year. Same with gas, where in the winter months, if you live up north in the winter months, they charge you more for gas to try to encourage you to not not use as much gas. But when have you ever just seen like, oh yeah, man, milk, so it's just gone down. It's negative now. It's like eggs, the whole thing with eggs, where everyone was like, oh, eggs were getting out of control because there was a massive shortage of eggs, and they were high in price because of that shortage. And then once the supply went back up, it went back down. There's no incentive to do that with the vast majority of this stuff. Unless there's competition. So with eggs, it's pretty easy to compete in eggs. You can just buy a chicken and raise it and get your own eggs, or buy from other people who do it. So it's not so easy for the egg market or industry to maintain egg prices exactly where they want them, which is obviously, if you can sell your eggs for as high a price as you want, as you can, then why wouldn't you? Unless you got some other ethical, moral things going on. However, with electricity, you're not just going to go build your own power plant. You're not just going to go, even if you have solar panels or wind turbine, or say you got like some sort of water wheel because you live next to a river or something. It's not enough to really, one, you have to get authority or clearance to tie into the grid, which is fine, but it's just this idea that you're taking different industries and you're just kind of treat them all the same. I know he didn't talk about eggs, that was my example, but you can't, it doesn't land because you can't, it's not as competitive of a market. There's not a lot of players in electricity generation at a scale that actually matters. So when the prices in electricities of like or commodities increase, then they just stay up. They typically don't go down unless like the government says, hey, we're going to do this, we have to bring it down. Or yeah, it's just there's not a lot of that. And there's more demand, there's more consumption. They'll try to increase supply to meet it. And there's not yeah, I mean, there are percentages and dollar amounts that are trying to be hit, but they're never trying to be like, let's push this down. There's no, because you're just pulling profits out of the company. And all of our, not all, but vast majority of companies in America operate on a profit driven motive. So they don't want to lower their profits if they don't have to. So why would they? So the big thing that's missed here too is that you need water to make electricity in 90% of the cases. Where you don't need water to make electricity, solar panels and wind turbines. You don't need water to make electricity for that. Do you need water to make electricity in nuclear power plants? Yes. Do you need water to make electricity in coal power plants? Yes. Natural gas power plants? Yes. It the coal heats the water. Very very dumbed down version of how this all works for nuclear, coal, and um and gas. It the energy source you're using, whether it's uranium, natural gas, or coal, heats the water. The water turns to steam. The steam turns a wheel, a giant wheel called a turbine. The turbine takes the mechanical energy and turns it into electrical energy. That is the process. Broadly, super broadly speaking, okay, it's way more complicated than that, but that's the big picture, is that we take an energy source, use it to heat water, the steam turns the wheel, the turbine, and then it creates electricity. Hydroelectric dams just use the flow of water, the naturally occurring flow of water, captures it with its turbines, spins it, creates electricity. We're taking mechanical energy, we're turning it into electrical energy. You need water to make electricity. So the idea that electricity is a tougher case, yeah, it is. It also adds to the water case because you need water to do it all. And if we're just creating all this electricity, which is using all this water just to power these data centers, what are we doing? Oh, it's fine. You don't need to eat. We got data centers. We got AI, generative AI. Okay, let's move on. Jesus. The real gripe shouldn't be with data centers, but with the regulations. Yeah, you hate regulations. Big surprise, Mr. I love America and free markets. If you really loved America, you wouldn't give a damn about regulations to the extent that if you loved America, regulations wouldn't just be a big boogeyman in the corner, and you wouldn't just be blindly like, oh, I love free markets. Who does that? Pundits do that. Like people who don't know economics or something do that. You can't. It's not that simple. Like it's there has never been a just completely free market system that I am aware of ever. Like it's just not a thing. There's always been some sort of like, oh well, there's a rule around that, or the king says you can't do that, or the emperor says this is this, or the council says that is that, and that's what we're gonna do. The closest you're ever gonna get to a free market if you just make something yourself and just be like, yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna go sell it to my neighbor or walk around town and try and sell it. But even then, there's rules around it. It's like, hey man, you need a stall, you need a permit, you need a business license. Like there are good regulations and there are bad regulations, and it is very like, I'll just say it's more detailed. You got to stop with this whole I just don't like regulations. It's just bad for America. No, it isn't. Like I don't think you know what's bad for America, I guess. Anyways, sorry, Dace. I'm not trying to attack you personally or anything like that. It's just an opinion article that you wrote that I vehemently disagree with. Regions with surplus power, such as North Dakota, have actually seen electricity prices fall slightly, even as demand rose almost 40%, largely because of data centers. Some states with the biggest demand increases have generally seen some of the smallest price increases. Let's see what they're talking about here. Share this tab. This is the backbone of America's another paywalled thing. Cool. Can you stop with the paywall? I mean, come on. You are writing an article, an opinion piece, and you want to share your opinion with people, and you want people to be able to verify like where your stance is and why. Why is all your stuff behind a paywall? Let's go back. Let's go back to this guy here. I accidentally closed it wrong. There we go. Okay. So we're not going to figure out why. Oh my God. Go back. Okay. What does it say here? But those increases don't have to be permanent. Oh, the sun is getting in my eyes. Data centers add demand in a stable, predictable way. Yeah, there's just a ton. It's like, hey, we need it. Oh, I'm on the wrong spot. Some states with the biggest demand, states with policy constraints like New York, have made it needlessly hard to build. No, they're trying to protect their land, the American land, and they're trying to protect their people from being taken advantage of by having increased rates that they can't afford, by having land like eminent domain or seized for the good of the country, like for whatever they believe it is the good of the country. This is a problem that predates data centers. Like others, like California, face their own obstacles from wildfire risk to permitting process that can take years. Fair. California does have a broken permitting system that I think if they fixed it, they could see a massive increase in turnout in their economy and for the betterment of the Americans that live there. Okay, so wait, let's go back to here. Now, he claims this stuff. I can't cross-verify it, I guess, because everything's paywalled. Oh, and this one, regions with surplus power such as North Dakota have actually seen electricity prices fall slightly even as demand rose above 40%, largely because of data centers. So I clicked on this one. It wasn't paywalled, and we'll go to it here. Okay, there's a reason electricity prices have been rising, and it's not data centers. It's not AI. It's not even data centers. It's the subtitle. Skimming through this, you can pause the video and read it yourself if you want. Let's go here. Data centers use energy sucking operations for really thinking about it. New study researchers. Okay, but a new study from researchers of Berkeley National Laboratory and a consulting group, Brattle, suggests that counterintuitively, more electricity demand can actually lower prices. I'm not so sure about that. You would need more than just demand. If you have the same amount of supply and you have more demand, it's going to cost more. If you have the same amount of supply and you have more demand, you're going to have shortages and the price per unit is going to go up. So you would need more players in the game, more production. You would need more supply. Between 2019 and 2024, the researchers calculated states with spikes in electricity demand saw lower prices overall, And so they just correlated those things together, causation 100% of the way. Done and done. Instead, they found that the biggest factors behind rising rates were the cost of poles, wires, and other electric. No, duh. Oh man, building out this infrastructure, we have to pay for the poles and the wires and the other electrical equipment. Oh man, no, no, duh. That would increase the cost. Jesus. No, it's not the data centers. It's the data centers didn't cost you more in electricity. Yes, they're going to use more electricity than was used previously because there was no consumption there. And now there's a building that has consumption there, but they're not the ones increasing the price. It's just all these pesky poles and wires and substations and power plants that we have to build to be able to supplement or to be able to produce enough for them to use electricity there. That's the real cost, is the build out. It's not the actual data center. Did you see how ridiculous it is? It's like, my God, no matter what way they want to cut it, it's so ridiculous. Anyways, yep, good job. Freaking it's just, it's what's interesting is this article, this article we're reading is heavily reliant on other opinion articles and other just other articles talking about it. And I get that, you have to be able to go, hey, what's causing this, or and pull from articles and stuff like that. I would like to see less reliance on the opinion ones and the paywalled ones, so that we can fact check you, because it's kind of hard to fact check you unless I just got a bunch of money to go buy a bunch of articles. Americans shouldn't be looking for ways to restrict these projects. They should be looking for ways to make it easier to build the infrastructure that powers them. Yeah, Americans, you stupid, greedy, selfish Americans, you should shut up and let these tech overlords and cartel oligarchs just do whatever they want. They're already lobbying the government. They already have a couple of people in their pocket. You should stop. Just stop it and let this happen. Jeez. It's the infrastructure around that drives up local costs. No duh, man. Like, come on. You're going to tell me? God, I'm done. All right, moving on. Anyone worried about price increase should take that up with their local government, not with the data centers themselves. And that's the end of the article. They are taking it up with their local government, and they're like, what? Why is this going up? And then the government goes, oh well, we're building this data center here that we approved. The three of us approved it over there. I think it was in Utah. This, and so they're pushing back now. But leave the poor data centers alone. Those poor billionaire data centers, leave them alone. Don't be so mean to them. That is what this guy is calling for. All right, very cool. Let's see here. I'm not going to read any of these other, or I'm not going to go into any other articles, but woke one was crazy, isn't an apology. So from the articles he writes, it seems he's right leaning. That's fine. You can be a Republican if you want. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. There's a good article in the sense of thank you for bringing it to my attention that people are still writing propaganda for the benefit of these massive corporations. But honestly, I'm not sold on it. I'm not convinced. Yeah, here's one about data centers trying to fix their water use. Just goes on and on about, oh, we're gonna use this instead, and fracking uses so much, so we're better than them. What I see a lot is data centers will use industries that are vastly larger and more mature than them, that are water intensive, and be like, we're not as bad as them. And the reality is there's only so much water in the world, and there's only so much, even less of a number of accessible water. And then of that accessible water, we use it, right? But there's a portion of that gets contaminated, sometimes permanently, like with PFAS, sometimes with lithium mines, right? So there's only so much we can we can only kick it down the road, kick the can down the road so many times before we just go, oh, we don't have enough water. And I know a lot of you will say, oh, there's a water cycle and it goes like this and refreshes. And there is a water cycle, and that's true. And what I'm saying is that we are using water faster than it can replenish itself. And we're holding it up as well, like storing it in various ways of usage, um, and that water doesn't go back into the water cycle. Okay, it's not like we're destroying it. Like, just imagine, like, say, massive amount of warehouses of just stored water bottles, right? That's not going back in the water cycle. It's just sitting there until it gets sold. And if it doesn't get sold, it just sits there. Um, Same with like your Gatorades and just drinks in general. I'm not saying like, oh, we shouldn't have bottled water, we shouldn't have energy drinks or Gatorade or anything like that. I'm just saying is that there's a finite amount of accessible drinkable water. As we start to get outside of that range, it gets exponentially more expensive to get that water and to let me cut that, and to use that water in general. So a lot of people will point at saline plants. They go, look at that, we can pull ocean water out and clean it up, and look at us now. Now we have drinking water. Well, that's an extremely expensive, material and energy intensive way to get water from an undrinkable state to a drinkable state. Um, the water that gets sucked into those tubes for those plants, that it's not just clean water, it's just got salt in it. It's got a whole bunch of gunk in it. It's got plant life and probably fish and other stuff and sand. It has to get sucked up, goes through various screenings to get that stuff out. And once you get it to a point where you get it to be able to be cleaned up, so then it can go through an RO membrane, the reverse osmosis membrane. That's where you're pulling all that salt out. And there's different styles of plants, and there's different capacities of um, plants. But once you get that to that stage where now we're just dealing with salt water with a bit of other minerals in it, and an RO system, it goes through that, and there's wastewater in there too. So it's not just, hey, I have 100 gallons of salt water, I'm going to run it through this RO system, I'm going to have 100 gallons of fresh water. It's more like you'll have 1 gallon of waste for every 2 gallons of fresh. It depends on the system. It depends on a lot of that. So there are some more efficient systems, and there are some less efficient systems. So two things with that is, you got the waste, that wastewater. The cheapest way to get rid of that wastewater is to just dump it right back in the ocean. And a lot of people go, oh, that's fine, because it's just a concentrated thing of water, of salty water. And it is, but it's heavy. And so it slides down on the bottom of the ocean because it's more dense, and it kills everything on the way down, because everything in there is just like, holy crap, what is this? I can't breathe. Or all the little fishes and crabs and stuff. I don't know if crabs would be affected. I'm not a marine biologist, but it's not sustainable. You can't just keep doing that. You're going to create issues in the ocean, especially if you scale it up, where everything is just constantly, we're just pulling tons of salt water, getting the fresh out and dumping in an even higher concentrated amount of salt water. The ocean is huge. Don't get me wrong. I get that that would take a long time for that to happen, but also too, it's expensive electricity wise, when relative to groundwater, where you have a pump that is extremely electrically efficient, and just sucks it up, and you can drink that water. If it's a good well and there's nothing in it like sour wise, or like some sort of gas or whatever, you can drink that water. I mean, I would say, maybe run it through a filter, take out some iron and manganese and stuff, but you can drink it. Whereas instead, you have this big plant, this big building run by people, and those filters too, those RO filters, those don't last forever. Those have to get changed out. You have to get new ones in. So you have an increase in energy costs, you have labor costs, you have material costs, which is like your filters, you have waste, which is the water that gets wasted. You got to clean those screens too, depending on the setup. I'm imagining that a lot of them are just, you got to scrape them clean sometimes to get rid of some of the bigger stuff that comes through. They also could very well have a pump system in there that kind of chews it up. That's what I would do. I would put in one of those stack of blades that, like those sewer chewers, and it would just tear it all up and then send it through and then pump it out and screen it that way. Be more efficient, so you don't have people scraping things. But yeah, it's not just this catch-all solution that's just so easy, and um, it just isn't. And if we're not careful with our water, we can end up losing our water. And I don't know what kind of world that would be. Um, Probably a pretty bad and dire one. But I do know that there are a lot of people in a lot of spaces that maybe they haven't worked in it or whatever it might be, but they're very ill informed or something. It's kind of crazy to me because I just listened to this radio. It was like NPR News, and they were talking about the attack on Minnesota water um, centers. Like, and the two people they had on, one was like an IT security tech, cyber security guy, and the other guy I couldn't really tell. He said he was like in water, but he was like some sort of policy regulatory guy. And I think he was from like Wisconsin too, and wasn't from Minnesota, which is not a big deal. They're right next to each other. But their big push over the course of that like hour conversation was to consolidate the water system in Minnesota. And to me, I'm like, well, you should leave it fragmented because then it's harder to attack. And you can do a lot of technology out there that makes it so you're not even part of the system. You're not hooked up to the internet, and you can still monitor your stations and your sites. And their push against that was, well, it's so labor intensive to do that. The workers, that's all they're going to do. So that's a lot of what all there is to do. Like that's your job, is to go check on wells, take measurements, make sure it's the same today as it was yesterday, and know why those numbers are the way they are. Not just be like, oh, I got to sit in this chair and just look at these screens and go, oh no, that one's beeping now. What do I do? You know? And the cybersecurity guy was all about, oh, these small towns in Minnesota, they can't afford an IT dude. Yeah, even the big ones don't typically just have one on standby. You hire it in on a as needed basis. It makes way more sense to go, like, even for cities that have IT guys, they're IT guys for like the city's infrastructure, for the city's computer system, for security, between communication between departments. That's what those IT guys are for. When it comes to water, you typically call out, usually from the manufacturer you bought it from, or not the manufacturer, but the sales rep. And they either have a service tech or someone that they'll point you to, which could be the manufacturer in the long run, that will help you with your system or with errors in your system, in your PLCs. You don't just have like an expert IT water guy. Like that's just not a thing. But these guys who came off as experts were talking like you do. Like, oh yeah, that's a normal thing. Everyone's got them. It's like, no, they don't. Like that's not a thing, and there's no need for that. It's wasteful. You just hire it out as needed. So, anyways, I don't know how I got talking about this. I guess it's water and stuff, but tell me what you think. I am not impressed with this article. Pretty disappointed in it. I don't really care. I'm glad that it's bad, honestly, because it's just blatant propaganda. It's, you should get on the right side of history and all this like culture war, weird language that's like, oh, you're doing wrong by history. I don't know. Screw you. It's just like it's it's nonsense is what it is. It's nonsense. It's just like, come on. Like you selectively pull dates. You don't go all the way up to the current date. Maybe there's not data for it, but you don't. And then you want to go on and on about how Americans and they should just get out of the way for this development, and I'll tell you too, a lot of people will frame this out in different ways, but the way that I see this is I honestly see it as the haves and the have-nots. There are a lot of very wealthy people on these projects, on these AI data center build out projects. A lot of them have invested and have nothing to do other than they're investors and saw an opportunity of what they thought was going to be a ton of money. And then there are those of them like Sam Altman who are deeply invested in the sense of like, hey, if this falls apart, his life falls apart, or presumably. So he's got lots of incentives to make this all happen. I think everyone's been sold on a lie. Like it's snake oil, I guess, because you know it's not even AI. AI, our version of AI here, artificial intelligence, It's not actually artificial intelligence. It's next token generation, NTG, I guess you could call it. But that's not as catchy as AI, you know. And then you can sell them on all sorts of things, especially in the tech center. There's lots of mystery around it, where you're just like, oh, you can do that. Oh, how does my screen know that I'm typing into my computer or moving my mouse? What is a graphic user interface? What is that? I don't understand. There's lots of mystery behind technology, because there's leaps and bounds made by very dedicated, intelligent people that try to better our lives by inventing things and creating new technologies. Um, and the vast majority of those technologies do not come at the massive detriment of the society that they're in, you know. But this is, you wouldn't have articles like this. It's very telling, because you wouldn't have articles like this if it was a no-brainer. These people want you to think like, you don't even have to think about it. It's a no-brainer. You should go with this. You wouldn't have to have articles like this if it was, you know. You wouldn't, because people be like, oh yeah, okay. Like, I don't have to convince someone, hey, eat this apple, it's good for you, or, you know, it's an apple. You know, I don't have to be like, do you think eating an apple is good? You know, they'd be like, I don't know, let me go look into that and ask 50 different people. They'd probably just be like, yeah, you know, it's good, it's an apple. Like, I like apples, maybe I don't. Could eat a peach instead, or a pear. You don't have to sell them on it. They're trying to sell you on this. They're trying to be like, oh man, you guys are just all, this is a lot. One more rant here. This is a lot like COVID, where people had their own understanding and prior experiences with stuff that told them, no, this isn't right. Like, what are you talking about? And then you had tons of people like this that are just yelling on all of their articles that they just pump out, saying, oh, you got to do this and that, and this is different, and follow that. And it was disregarding people's own, like, I don't know, gut instinct and or prior experience, because it wasn't an institutional experience. And that's where we lost a lot of institutional trust in America, because we had the government and corporations, and a lot of our institutions just lie to us. And we got it again. We got it again. And it's really telling to me, because Trump is extremely behind AI and data centers. He was all rah, rah, rah for it. And they have a lot of money. And now he's got a lot of money too. And that's through crypto and other stuff. And to me, it's just like, yeah, they just want they want to dupe us enough to be able to push stuff out. They want to be like, don't worry about it. You dumb American. Just eat your cheeseburgers and watch your games and go to work. You know, don't think about it. And we have to think about it. We really do. So again, I'm sorry. It gives me the same kind of vibes as a COVID kind of propaganda is, as far as propaganda goes. So anyways, hope you like the video. If you do, share it with someone else. I know it's long-winded. I'm trying to balance out short content and long content, long format content stuff. And I'm trying to do things as little editing as I can, because I'm not that good at it. So it takes me time to get better at it. And then I just think to myself, if I just don't make mistakes while I'm editing or while I'm video recording, I won't have to edit it out. I guess that's true, but it's easier said than done. But again, if you'd like this video, share it with a friend, you know, hit the like button, subscribe if you want, because this is the kind of content I make. It's content around economics and politics, sometimes like philosophical stuff, ethical things, moral things. And it's not to say that there's just one or the other. It's just kind of like talking about it in general. But yeah, all right. Well, I will see you later.